Thank you for joining us for tonight's Public Safety Forum, hosted by Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake and co-host Commissioner Anthony Batts. Won't you put your hands together and give them a round of applause? Tonight we have the fortune and privilege to be here at the historic Bethel AME Church, 1300 Druid Hill Avenue, where the pastor is the Reverend Dr. Frank Madison Reed III. And I'm asking that, yes, you can put your hands in. So I'm going to ask if Pastor Reed would just join us and welcome all that had come out tonight.
To the mayor, to the commissioner, to our councilman who just got back from Israel, to our comptroller, to everybody that's somebody, we want to welcome you to Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church. This church was founded in 1785. It has been in this building for now over 102 years. The greatest speakers in our nation have stood in this pulpit over those 100 years, and we have been involved with community development from our inception in 1785. Our theme is, for those 200 plus years, it's time to lead. We thank God for the mayor and the commissioner who's telling the city it's time to lead in public safety. I just spoke to a friend in Newark, New Jersey, and Ross Baraka, the new mayor of Newark, with all of the problems that he's facing, the number one agenda is public safety. So it says something about our mayor and our police commissioner, that they would come not when there's a shooting, but they would come when they want solutions to, and help the community forge solutions. So let's move forward and remember that on this day, that Maya Angelou has passed, that we are blessed as a city to have a phenomenal woman as our mayor, phenomenal woman as our comptroller, and because all of us are phenomenal men and women, we can accomplish great things. Quickly, could we just bow our heads and have a silent word of prayer in memory of the life of Maya Angelou and the greatness of our city? Amen. And Reverend Todd Yeary, our dear friend and one of our community leaders, is here. I won't recognize anybody else because if I forget anybody, I'll get in trouble. But that's my clergy brother. God bless you. And Madam Mayor, thank you for coming to Bethel. Keep on leading.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. There is one other person that I know that is co-laboring with you here at Bethel, and I just want to acknowledge Lady Marla Reed, who's joining with us. As Dr. Reed has said, that certainly we are in a position of leadership where the mayor has made a promise and a commitment to the citizens of Baltimore to host a forum in the 9 police districts around Baltimore, and tonight we're here in the Central District. And one of the council representatives of the Central District is none other than your councilman, Councilman Bill Cole. I'm going to ask if he would come up.
I may not know a lot of things, but I'm smart enough to not try to follow a pastor in his own church. Thank you all very much for being here. Madam Mayor, thank you. When it was time for cabinet in the community, the mayor called me and said, where should we do it? And we did it in Upton. When it was time to come and have a conversation about crime in the Central District and have a community dialogue, we come to Upton. So it's nice to be back here having a conversation, a community conversation with all of you. Pastor Reed, thank you for hosting us. Commissioner, Madam Mayor, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to present, certainly not introduce, but present to you the mayor of our fine city, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake.
Gus, I want to thank you so much for all of your hard work in leading my mayor's office of neighborhood. He told you everything but the fact that this is his church. So it made it very easy when you made the request. And I want to thank Pastor Reed for hosting us, and your First Lady for being so gracious. You know, your family and this church holds a very special place in my heart. So I'm grateful to be here with you, making it very plain and clear to everyone that this church is not in the community; it's of the community. And so I'm very grateful, and I'm so happy to see so many people come out this evening. It is wonderful to have Councilman Cole back in, not just back in the United States, but back in Baltimore. I know you look invigorated, enlightened, enlivened, and almost, are you pensive about your trip? Are you still trying to... He's getting over the jet lag of being in Israel and getting over the fact that they didn't serve peanut butter and jelly there. That was a little tough, that little culture shock. The councilman and my daughter have similar tastes, I should say that. I want to also acknowledge the comptroller, Joan Pratt, for all of your hard work. You know, we've done a lot of great things for our city, and certainly, you know, one thing that I hear all of the time from particularly mothers of young daughters is how much they respect and admire women in leadership in the city, and I don't take that lightly. I know how much it was of value to me to have mentors and role models growing up, and I want to thank you for continuing to be such a great role model for our young women who certainly need them in this time. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank Delegate Stukes for being here and working so hard for the community as well. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge this is the home church of, you know, it's like every third politician goes to Bethel, and this is the home church. And I know I saw former Mayor Sheila Dixon is here as well. Thank you for being here. So we, you know, Memorial Day marks the beginning of the summer season, and it means a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And one thing that I know has been on the mind of the commissioner and me and many of other individuals involved that have to pay attention to public safety, you know, that is on the forefront of their minds, is that it also means the beginning of what has historically been an increase in violence. You know, we know when the warmer it gets, that is when we are at risk of having increased violence in the city. And we unfortunately saw that beginning with the weekend that we had. You know, it is tough, particularly when we continue to lose young people. Over the weekend, we lost a 16-year-old, and the individual that we believed committed that homicide is already we believe again, in his efforts to evade capture. There was a 12-year-old that was killed yesterday. You know, so my plea to the community when I spoke about this was that we got to get this guy off the street before someone else is hurt. There are so many members of our community that are doing the right thing and want better for themselves. Even some people that are doing the wrong thing want better. But then you have people like this who clearly have no value for their lives or others, that we know that we're not going to be well served until we get them all off, until we get him off the street, and other violent repeat offenders who, you know, and it's so tough because we know it's a small group of people who are committing the vast majority of these crimes. So that's why I continue to focus on violent repeat offenders. It's the cornerstone, continues to be the cornerstone of our crime fighting strategy, to target them, to use technology, to target them, to use the resources that we have with the partnerships that we have with the community to get good information on targeting these repeat violent offenders. And that's why I fought hard to bring Operation Ceasefire to Baltimore. It focuses on these repeat violent offenders, focuses on the groups of repeat violent offenders, and it has shown progress in significantly reducing the homicide rate in cities across our country. And I was very interested in breaking the shackles, and I know I'm calling a pastor the commissioner. I know that I know that Pastor Reed and I have talked about really wanting to break the shackles that we feel like Baltimore has lived under for so many years, the shackles of violence. And I know Senator Pugh, when we talk about it as well, that we believe very strongly and deeply that Baltimore is better than this, that there is a future for Baltimore exists without the pervasive violence that we've had. So that's why I'm, again, in my State of the City address, I talked about Operation Ceasefire and focusing on that work. It is an all-hands-on-deck approach that I hope everyone understands. I've heard some people refer to it as hug a thug, and that's not what it is. It is saying to those individuals who mean to do harm, if you want better for your life, we will bring all of the resources and surround you with those resources to help you on a better path. But if you continue to terrorize our communities, if that is the path that you are determined to be on, then we will bring all of the resources, and I see in my other peers, my colleagues in public safety who are here with us today, we're going to bring down the wrath on every resource we have on you and everybody that's in your group to make sure that you get the message that we're done. You know, that the time that we are paralyzed by violence, that we are crippled by violence is over, and that we want better for Baltimore. It is the only way that is going to happen is in partnership with our police. And with our communities. I'm very proud that we've seen a 300% increase in the amount of information that we're getting from the public, because I made it very clear when I interviewed the commissioner that I wanted to make it clear to the community that I understand that we cannot look to you to be a partner if you feel that you're under siege. You know, that there's no way that we can put a hand out and expect your hand in return if you don't feel like we're working in partnership. So that's what this, for me, is about. We're going to every district. We're working with our CRC reps. I want to thank all of you for being here. Because it's vitally important that we strengthen the bonds of partnership that we have with the community and look for ways that we can increase the amount of information that we're getting. That's why I put more money into the Metro Crime Stoppers, so we increase the reward money for people that are turning in individuals that are found with illegal guns. And again, if you are interested, if you know somebody that has some information, it's 866-7-LOCK-UP, and that's the Metro Crime Stoppers number. We encourage you, we urge you to speak up because that's the only way that we are going to break free of the shackles of violence that have plagued our community. So I hope you understand, and you've seen by the work that I've done in my administration, I understand very clearly that public safety is more than law enforcement. There's no way that we're going to arrest our way out of the violence that we've seen. I've made commitments to increase the strength of our communities through job training in the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. I understand how blight and vacant properties have plagued our property. I've made significant investments and significant progress in removing vacant properties in the city. And with our Vacants to Value initiative, we've received international acclaim for the innovative work we've done with our focus on removing blight and in creating incentives for people to want to move back into Baltimore. And I also understand how critical education is, and I'm so proud to be able to work with the state delegation and with the council to lay the groundwork for the $1.1 billion. I mean, it's unheard of. I haven't seen another city in the country that has in the country that's invested $1.1 billion in new schools, 15 brand new schools, 35 fully renovated schools. We should be very, very proud of what is on the horizon for Baltimore. And my commitment, my personal commitment to each and every one of you is to make sure that every dollar that we spend for school construction, that we get the most out of it, whether it's, opportunities for job training or to make sure that we're leveraging those resources with other investments that we're making in the community, so we're not just plopping down a school and thinking that you're going to have a transformation just by putting a school in a community, but it's going to be a whole community approach to integrating these new schools. And I'm so, I get excited just thinking about what is on the horizon. So thank you for being here this evening. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I'm going to turn it back over to, and with that, I want to bring up or he's going to speak from there, Police Commissioner Batts. Thank you again for being here.
Being in a church and being a warrior of God and a man of God, and I say that pretty openly, and Pastor, to let you know where my stance is, and I share that with people on a regular basis. There's a couple things that I think is important as I come before crowds, is one, to tell them what my value system is by being a man of God and a warrior of God, but number two, that I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I didn't grow up in Baltimore. I know what it is to grow up very poor and very dysfunctional neighborhoods, dealing with friends being lost, dealing with the violence, prostitution, and all other dysfunctionality that goes on in communities throughout large urban centers throughout the United States. And it's important to say that. And it's important to let people know that if I can work my way through that, then there's other people who can work their way through it too at the same time. And there's a way to cure it and make it better. I wanted to share that, sometimes I get in trouble with my staff because they make notes for me, like multi-page notes, and then I get off of them because I like to speak from my heart, and I like to just kind of share what's inside of me and be very honest and supportive. I'm just going to share what I'm trying to accomplish within the city of Baltimore and just be really honest about it. Last night, I think the toughest things, and I have a lot of tough moments in this job, and I share with people that it's tough being a commissioner in the city of Baltimore. I'll be perfectly honest. It's tough in any city, but it's especially tough in Baltimore. And being a mayor is probably about 10 to 15 times tougher than that, being in charge of a city and making changes. It's tough when you go to a hospital at 12 o'clock at night and you're looking at a parent who just on their way home lost a 12-year-old daughter. How do you explain that? What do you say to them? What do you do with that? And want to just want to wrap your arms around them and let them know that life means something to you. And that's what I did to the grandmother, is wrap my arms around her. And all I could say was, I understand, and I'm sorry for your loss. But that doesn't make a difference when you're losing kids out here. And the funerals that I've gone to with young kids losing their lives out here, they're not good enough to just say that I'm sorry. Those things are empty many times. And today I went to see Keith McNeil, who's my police officer who was shot 9 times. 9 times. Had somewhere close to 12 holes in his body, exit wounds, 9 times. He's not supposed to be here. And the night I had to talk to his wife. There's too many guns on these streets. There's too much violence that takes place in this city. And the reality is that this city, and this is where I get in trouble, this city needs to grab itself and make a cultural change. I mean, when we stand here and we lose these lives and we blame other people, we blame other things instead of really looking in the mirror and saying, who's responsible for my child out there wreaking havoc and violence? Now, these young men out here didn't start that way. They didn't start at the age of 17 or 20 or 21. They started as babies at some given point in time. And who had responsibility for them and how they turn out? Is it the government's responsibility? Is it everybody else's responsibility? When do we start taking a look and saying we need to make a change? And I say that from my heart because I haven't grown up here, and I would usually make jokes about not growing up to the different high schools because if you're from Baltimore, it's not what college you went to, it's what high school you went to. And that's how you know who the people are, bro. I didn't grow up here, but I am darn well, and I had to watch what I had to say there, Pastor. I am darn well tired and upset about the loss of life that takes place in this city. See, for me, to be perfectly honest, I get down on my knees when I go home at night and I ask God for wisdom to find ways to stop this. And sometimes I say things that upset people. Sometimes I say things that I shouldn't. Sometimes I just speak out and I don't really care because I want to save lives. And tonight, I'm sure when we stop and listen, people are going to say, this police officer didn't do this. Someone's going to say, this police officer did this. Someone's going to say that someone stepped out of bounds and didn't treat me correctly. And I accept that, and I will own that, and I will wrap around that. But I will not let you walk out of here without this community saying what we did to make a difference in these lives. It's time to stop pointing fingers. It's time to start asking the government to do everything for us. It's time for us to make a difference. I am tired of these lives being lost. I've done it in 3 different cities in this United States, and it's the same thing, and it's black lives, brown lives that have been lost night after night, and it's almost like we don't care. I'm going to say that. It's almost like we don't care. Another life lost. Another life lost. And the viciousness of it. Shots to the head, walking up on people. That's my world. That's what I want to talk about tonight. I'll take the body blows on what we haven't done. I will share what we're trying to accomplish, but I'm not going to let you walk out without saying what this community is going to help out and do too at the same time. This is my Bible. Sorry, Pastor. This is my, I've got to change that. I'm in a church. This is my guiding document. Sorry, Lord. This is my guiding document right here. Yes, King James Version. This is the Baltimore Police Department strategic plan. Now, what was necessary in this document to do this document for me, and this is what I do when I take a place, number 1, the organization knows what we're doing. Number 2, the citizens know what we're doing. Number 3, you know how to hold me accountable on what I'm trying to accomplish because it's right here and everybody has access to it. So there's no reason to guess. If you want to be a Baltimore police officer, before you graduate from the academy, you're tested on this document. If you want to be a sergeant in the Baltimore Police Department, you're tested on this document. If you want to be a lieutenant in the Baltimore Police Department, I'm glad you guys are paying attention. You're getting it now. This is our Bible. When I sit down on Monday mornings at my staff meetings are built off of this document. Today, and we started on this document in January, today we have completed 35 to 40% of this document. This is something serious for us. This means a cultural change. What's in here and why this is so significant is that we went to this community, the community of Baltimore, and asked them, what do you want out of your police department? How do you see your police department? How does your police department treat you? What do you want to see from your police department in the future? That's what this document is about, is building a police department that serves the community of Baltimore the way that Baltimore residents say we should serve. And I got to be honest with you, we're not even close. The targets that have been identified in this document by this community were off balance. We're not in sync with the community. So what my job is, my responsibility is to align the needs of this community with what the police department is doing, and that's what we're doing. Some of it's going to take cultural changes. Some of it's going to take looking at things in a terribly different way. It's going to take us giving respect to the community and listening to the community. Listening to the community becomes a critical point, a critical factor for us. More importantly, in this document, we asked the employees, what do you think about the Baltimore Police Department? Our employees said that we don't have the equipment, we don't have the ability to speak out, people are not listening to us. 9% of my organization said morale was good. Did you get that? 91% of my police department said we didn't have strong morale within the organization because we don't have the equipment, we don't have the guidance, we don't have the focus, we don't have the tools. How can I send out employees who feel like that into the community and expect them to do good work? Negotiations just concluded with the leadership of the mayor, we're getting these guys a pay raise. We're getting these guys a pay raise. We are, and that's big. Because for them, that says somebody cares. For them, that's a big thing. When they go out there and they have to risk their lives day in and day out, that's a big thing. But I also say, the mayor has stood up, the mayor has given you a raise, the council has supported it, now you better earn it. So nobody's just giving you anything, now it's time to earn it. And earning it means dropping this crime rate, it means being kind to this community, it means building solid credibility within our organization. Scandals, bad policing, unacceptable. And I know I'm going to hear this. I know I'm going to hear it tonight, but that's where we're changing, that's where we're growing, that's where we're going in a totally different direction, and we're growing as a police organization. This night, now I'm going to conclude this night for me is to listen. It's to listen, it's to grow, it's to adapt this organization so that when we go to these meetings, the community stands up and says, that's my police department. I own it, I believe in it, and it stands for everything that this community stands for. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Batts. Before we get started with the Q&A portion, I just would like to acknowledge and introduce 3 community leaders from the Central District, one being the president of the Central CRC, that is Ms. Joyce Green. If you would please raise your hand. For those of you who do not know what CRC represents, it means the Community Relations Council. Next to her right, is Mr. Kelly Little of the Druid Heights CDC. And joining us, Councilman Cole in Upton, a representative from Mount Vernon Belvedere Association. Thank you for joining us, and that is Mr. Jason Curtis, if he would just raise his hand. So Community's Christian song, I just want to acknowledge Christian. Where's Christian? You want to raise your hand, Christian? Christian works in the mayor's office of neighborhood, and he serves as the central liaison for the Central District. And he polled several residents in the Central District, a lot of community leaders in the Central District. So we received a number of emails, questions that would like to be asked and answered. So there will be an open mic forum at the Q&A portion. We will start, though, with one question from one of the 3 community leaders that I just introduced, and then we will go to the floor. Christian on my right, your left, will have a mic, and Larry Nunley to my left, your right. He is the liaison for the Southwest District and also serves as our special assistant for seniors. Both of them will take your questions. They will hold the mic. We will ask that you would make your way, after you raise your hand, I identify you, if you would make your way towards the aisle and you can pose your question. First up we have is the CRC president who will pose her question, and we will go from there. Ms. Joyce Green.
And Gus, as Ms. Green comes up, come on up,
Yes,
Ms. Green. Thank you so much. I do want to thank our fire chief. I know I saw him at some point. I think he's still here. Is my fire chief? There he is, Chief Niles Ford. Thank you so much for being here. I don't want to take up too much of your time, Ms. Green, but I did want to just thank him publicly for his commitment to making sure that the fire department is a place that is inclusive and is looking actively to hire Baltimore City residents. He's engaged in partnership with Dunbar and Douglas to be a feeder school. He calls it his farm team for the fire department, and I'm very proud of his work. So if you know someone who is from Baltimore that wants to join the department, please contact him. He is determined. I'm holding him accountable, and he's determined to make it happen to make sure that we hire more Baltimore residents in the department.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Joyce, Ms. Green, if you would just give me a second. Thank you. I also wanted to acknowledge 2 representatives from the Mass Transit Administration who are with us this evening as well.
Thank you, Gus. I would first like to thank Reverend Reed for having us here, and the mayor and the commissioner to Upton. I've been president of the CRC for about 12 or 13 years now. I work closely with two officers, Officer Ryder and his sergeant, Michael Alessi. We held our meetings the fourth Tuesday of the month at the Central District Station at 500 East Baltimore Street, and the mayor makes sure there's parking available in the 600 block, which is next to the station. My question tonight is for Commissioner Batts.
Yes, ma'am.
It's from the strategic plan, page 175, item number 5. I read the strategic plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, with one of the things that I see on a regular basis is the fact that our NSU officers are always, Neighborhood Services Unit officers are always being detailed into patrol. Item 5 states that they're supposed to work with the community, identifying crime problems and ways to working with the community to resolve these crime problems. How can they do this if they're constantly being detailed as per the strategic plan? So I wanted to know, what will you do as commissioner to give us back our officers?
Good question, Ms. Green. And I love Ms. Green to death. Joyce and I just tried something new for the first time. Joyce and the other CRC presidents, is I brought them into our realm, and I was looking to promote new majors. Majors are the highest ranking officers in the districts. And I brought the CRC presidents in and sat them at the table for promotions. And Joyce was one of those members. And as I sat down, and that's new for us. One of the issues that the police officer said that they have an issue with is that they don't think discipline is done in a fair way or promotions are done in a fair way. So what I did is pull back that onion and brought the community in and said, trust us that we're going to do this in a fair way. And I was very proud of the fact, because I only had like 3 or 4 questions of each candidate. I think each candidate ended up answering about 20 questions. You get that? I only had 3 or 4, and they ended up answering 20. The community was very engaged in this, in getting our command staff promoted. And what Ms. Green and the other CRC presidents asked was the question is, what are you doing for the community today? What have you done for the community? How have you impacted the community of Baltimore? And I'm very proud of that. So thank you for allowing me to talk about that, because the people we're promoting now are people engaged in this community, and they have to have a history or being engaged in the community and working with the community as a whole. Now, into Joyce's question, which is the Neighborhood Services Unit, one of the things that we have in place, we have a 12-point plan that we deal with crime right now. And the 12 points are basically what you could call waves. So in order not to overtax any one part of the police department, we do 12 different waves. Wave 2, Wave 3, Wave 4, and one of the things that I noticed coming to Baltimore is that the criminal element here adapts extremely quickly. So if we do a tactic, let's say we have crime that's taking place at 5 o'clock on Thursdays, if we do a tactic to deal with that crime at 5 o'clock Thursday, within 2 to 3 days, they will adapt and go to somewhere like 2 in the morning, or they'll go to 10 o'clock at night. They watch us very quickly, and they adapt to the things that we do very fast. So part of what we do is built-in automatic waves. So those waves come in, we throw them off with the next wave, and they're not always the wave in the same order. We can do waves in another order, we can change them up, we can double them up, we can triple them up, just to throw the element off. One of those waves is that if we get to 10 homicides in a month, and Baltimore usually trends over a 10-year period, trends at low end 17 homicides a month, high end 25 homicides a month. So in between 17 to 25 is the norm that the city has modulated at. So I said anytime we get to 10, we get out everything. We bring out every part of this organization and we slow that down no matter when it takes place. That means NSUs, that means anyone on a desk, that means detectives, that means my warrant apprehension task force, that means my RAT team, which deals with my auto thefts. Everything gets out there on the street to slow that pace down, to make sure that we ensure that we save lives. So it's not just the NSUs that are impacted, it's the entire organization. And our one single focus, becomes violent crime for the police department as a whole. The bigger issue is when we're not clicking into that particular mode, is my wish and my hope is that we keep the NSUs focused on community policing, but it's just not the NSUs. And if you go to any meeting, people love the NSUs. They talk how much they're great, what they do for the communities, how much they're engaged. That's not who I just want to hear that from. And so I want to build an organization where all my police officers are NSUs. Not just a cadre of 5 or 6 people, but every police officer, all 150 of them, if they're assigned to a district, should have that skill base. So part of what we're trying to do now, and what I've given to Lieutenant Colonel Melvin Russell, his job and his responsibility, is to educate this entire organization to be NSUs, to be problem solvers, to get into the community, to listen to the community, to get to community meetings overall as a whole. So we're expanding from 5 to 6, and we're trying to build to 150.
Thank you. If I may, when the commissioner invited the community in, none of the staff knew that we were there. They came in shocked and surprised, didn't know what to say or do. To keep it totally transparent, the commissioner at no time asked us in advance for any of the questions that we asked of anybody on the promotions list. So not only was the commissioner surprised at the questions we had, but so were the promotees. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. I saw a couple hands on this end, and I saw a hand on this end. Yes, ma'am. Right in front of Larry. Yes, yes, ma'am. Introduce yourself, and you can ask your question.
My name is Nadia Melvin Clark, and I'd like to ask the commissioner and the mayor a question concerning the young people and where did our recreation department go and the PALS department, because I worked for recreation for I worked a long time for those children, and I see, for some reason, I see if we bring it back strong, even with the PALS department, if we bring back the strong recreational basketball, soccer, ping pong. I even learned, some children even learned how to roller skate in some of these recreation centers. At a young age, what kind of effect do you think or you feel? Because I feel strongly that we need that type of response back to our children. I worked with many children in that recreational area, took them to camps in the summer, and it was just phenomenal. And some of those children are very well, raised and very well in standard in the city of Baltimore. They come to me, they still remember me. And so I think recreation, or wherever we can find some things that these children can do, start them at a young age, then build up to their teenage status. Maybe we can come up with something that will keep them busy and not idle.
Thank you very much for the question. So I'm going to give you a kind of broad background and then specifics about where we're headed. So the PALS centers were closed under a previous administration. When I became mayor, we had over $120 million budget deficit that I had to close. We were in the throes of the Great Recession, and I was called upon to make some very tough choices about where we were headed. And I knew from my own experience that what we were calling recreation centers were that in name only. And that for far too long, we patted ourselves on the back at City Hall for keeping them open when we wouldn't send our enemy into some of these facilities. They were dilapidated, no doors on the bathroom, poor programming. They were open so we could say they were open, but they weren't really providing the service that our community needed. So I put together a group of community stakeholders. I said to community leaders, I said, what do you want from your recreation centers? I know what you have, but what do you want? And the community was very clear. They went around, we had elected officials on it, community leaders, people in the foundation community, They went and evaluated every single recreation center. What is the condition of the facility? How many people are using the facility on any given day? They also took a look at the physical condition, and they graded on everything that you would want to grade it on. And after grading it, we realized that we were spending the same amount of money to keep a center open that was serving 20, 30 kids a month that was serving hundreds of kids per day. Right? We're spending the same amount, same staffing, everything. And that's not a smart use of money. And it was also clear when we talked to when we talked to community members that they wanted more. They didn't want just to say that their center was open. They wanted it to be something, to be a place that the community could be proud of, to be a state-of-the-art recreation center. And the group didn't just look at the ones that we had. I told them, we can't figure out what we want unless we see what's out there, what's state-of-the-art, what's best practices. So they went outside of Baltimore, even all the way down, either in D.C. or right outside of D.C., to look at those centers and said, this is what we want. And once it was clear that the community wanted quality over quantity, they wanted state-of-the-art centers, then it was time to make the tough decisions. Because I can't spend the money to keep the dilapidated ones open that people weren't using. I can't spend that money and then plan and build for the future. So yes, we closed centers, but we did it with a plan, a concrete plan for building for the future. And we've done that. We've opened new community centers. We're starting the expansion of some others. We've done the groundbreaking on some more community centers. We also have a capital plan for our aquatic center. We are building the recreation centers and programs that our community members said that they wanted. But there's no way to do that without making some tough decisions. But for me, I wanted to be abundantly clear that while those decisions had to be made to close some that weren't working, it was done in a way that helps us build for the future. And we also were able to reopen a center that in Western that had been closed for years because we offered in those centers that we knew we had to close, if people had the means and had the capacity to run programs, we were willing to partner with you, and we established some of those partnerships. So my commitment is for better. I couldn't look at myself and be one of those people who kept something open just so nobody would say I closed it, when I know that that's not what I would want to send my child to. And in order to have better, you have to make those tough decisions in order to get to better. And that is my vision for recreation centers, and what I hope that people are seeing that we are moving towards.
Yeah, I also respond for a second.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I do, and we've kind of built out and I share how the mayor has inspired something for us to do within the police department.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. Also, we just established the Night Hoops basketball leagues, and the finals are coming up this weekend. And I forget do we know where they're going to be at? Is it Herring Run?
I'll confirm. Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
find out where they are. But the Night Hoops, we have 2 different leagues, 2 different age groups, trying to give kids some other activities late at night. And it was very, we're excited that we had some teams that are participating, and the finals are coming up this weekend. Sorry, I didn't.
No, ma'am, you're the mayor. One of the things that I do, I drive around the city a lot. I try to get out of my office. I want to be seen in places where commissioners are not used to be seen. I want to talk to the young people out there. And what I found a couple times is when I got out of my truck to go talk to young people, they would kind of disappear and walk away. And so they didn't want anything to do with the police department. And if I see people who roll their eyes and stuff, I make them talk. I go up to them, I introduce myself and engage, and by the time I leave, they're smiling, they're laughing, they have a different opinion. And the reason I say that is that I've driven around different parts of our community and some of the rougher parts, and I see kids out playing basketball. And so I'll get out of the car and I'll walk up and I'll say, can I see the basketball? And they go, what do you want, po-po? And I'm not sure what a po-po is, or a knocker, or a 5-0, but those words seem to come out when we walk up. But I'll get them to give me the basketball at some given point in time, and I'll pull out a $20 bill. And I say, is anybody good enough over here to make this basket from the 3-point line? And I'll say, well, and if I'm on the east side, I say the west side guys say that you guys are not good enough to play ball. And if I'm on the east side, I say if I say vice versa, I always kind of get them to come to the court. And then they start, and then most of the time it's just one kid who'll come up because they don't want to be around the po-po, and he'll take a shot, and he'll miss. And then another kid comes up and says, let me take a shot. And then virtually they're not making a shot, so I'll pull out another $20, $40. I said, get on the half-court line. Can anybody make this at the half court? I will pay you this money. The guys on the east side must be right. You guys aren't good enough to make this basket, are you? And before you know it, I have 15, 20 kids out there. Even the adults are coming out there trying, can I play? Can I play? They want to get out on line. But the reason that I say that, and if they make it, I pay them off. If they make the basket, I give them the money and I pay them off. But the reason I say that is when we travel around the city, and I don't even know these kids, they always come up. Remember, you were on the basketball court that time? We did the shot. I made the shot. Remember, it was me? Mr. Batts, it's good to see you. That is making a relationship that these kids recognize 2, 3, 4, 5 months later that they don't get so much when we go out there and we're taking their grandmothers or their uncles and cousins to jail and they see us only one way. One of the things that the mayor does at this meetings, and she kind of made me jealous, and I got to tell you right now, she introduced the fire chief, Niles over there, and Niles will stand up like Niles stood up, looking all handsome in his fire uniform, and everybody loves the firefighters. And the mayor would talk about how he's doing his program over there. Yeah, Niles, I'm talking about you. Doing his program with the high schools. And so taking those two concepts, this basketball concept that I had in making relationships, taking the fact that we have a large number of our officers are coming from out of state. And that's not something that I want. It's just happening. And hopefully that now that we have a new contract, we can shift and change that. But we have a number of officers coming from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. They should be coming from Baltimore. And what Niles is doing with the fire department is actually the same thing I want to do with the police department, is have homegrown people come to this organization. So what we're starting in a different mode to try to get police officers in the city of Baltimore seen differently is what people would say this is the offshoot of the Police Athletic League. And to a certain extent it is and it isn't. So this summer with Lieutenant Colonel Melissa Hyatt, and she's one of the co-chairs of this, Lieutenant Colonel Mel Russell is the other co-chair, we're starting what we call an Explorer Camp. And what the Explorers are kind of like the Boy Scouts for the police department. And we've had this program for a long time. But every district does not have an Explorer program. And so we're going to run an Explorer Camp. And why I push on this, and if you hear me talk, I'll say it over and over, I am a true believer in mentoring. I've done mentoring, and I'm a product of mentoring. And I told you, I grew up in South Central LA, and you've seen the movies about South Central LA. You have a good feel for where I grew up. Crenshaw Boulevard, you've seen it on TV with the lowriders and Boys from the Hood was off of Crenshaw Boulevard. Those are the parts of my neighborhood where I grew up. But it was a person wearing a uniform like this, that had a patch on their arms like this, that made such an impact in my life that today I am police commissioner of a police department. It was that mentoring that made that dramatic impact in my life. So I am a true believer. Kids that I have touched who were going left or right, and today they have families, productive jobs, and they give me a call and they tell me how well their jobs are doing. I believe in mentoring. So in this Explorer Camp that we're setting up for this summer, and I hope to touch, my goal, and I don't know if I'll get it, but I hope to touch 500 kids. And I want to bring those 500 kids to our police academy. And two or three times a week, we're going to host young kids from 9 to 12 at our police academy through this Explorer Camp. And in that Explorer Camp, we're going to have flag football taught by police officers, lacrosse taught by Melissa, basketball, CrossFit exercising, and my guys don't like this part, but I'm going to do it anyway. We're going to have MMA conditioning. Mixed martial arts taught by Rodney, who's shaking his head right there. He does kickboxing. He's the bald guy in the front up here. He's a black belt. Is it kickboxing or taekwondo? Kickboxing, okay. But it's not, I don't want the kids engaging in fisticuffs. What I really want them to do, yes ma'am, I'm with you. What I really want them to do is you have to be very disciplined and very conditioned to be able to do that. So that's where our focus is having them conditioned. And my kids who are grown adults now, I used to like wearing them out because then they would sleep at night. So if I can bring all these kids in and we wear them out and give them something to do and see police officers in a positive way, and part of that is not just the games, it's character building. Because in those things, the games and the sports are going to be the hook to get them in. Once we get them in, we're going to have classes and programs, much like the basketball, to have these kids impact their norms, their values, their characters, and make sure that they have an interest or try to build an interest in becoming a police officer. So we go to the Explorer Camp. When that finishes, we send them into the Explorer programs in the different districts. And we're not looking for just the good kids. We're looking for some of the kids that are a little problematic out there. If we can get them in too at the same time, and if we can save them at the same time, they may be on that road to go a little left, they can go a little right. And so we're going to try this year, and I've made some phone calls. I have to raise some money because we have to get transportation to be able to transport them from the 9 different districts. I want to feed them. We found a way to give them lunch, so we'll be able to feed them after having them for 9 hours. And that came from partnering, I can't even talk. Yes, ma'am, that too. That came from coming together, partnering with Parks and Rec. And when we sat down with Parks and Rec, I told them what I wanted to do, and they said, you can get food from here. You can get transportation from here. Look at this, look at that. These are the forms that we use. So we're working in partnership with Parks and Rec to make that happen this year, and hopefully we will impact 500 kids off of those streets so they're not out there getting in trouble, that we're being seen in a positive direction. And if I could get even a third of those kids to become Baltimore police officers eventually, I've been successful at what I'm trying to accomplish. So we're trying to do something new. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Hi, I'm Abe Turetsky from Bolton Hill. This is a question for the mayor. Because she's prettier than the commissioner. I'm a great believer in multipliers, and so whether it comes to public safety or anything else within the city, I'm wondering what we're doing about employing that concept.
Say that again. You're a great believer in...
Sorry, say that again.
I say I'm a great believer in multipliers, so whether it comes to public safety or anything else within the city, I'm wondering what we're doing about employing a concept like that.
So you would have to give me a little bit more information about that concept.
Multiplier? What do you mean by multiplier?
When it comes to public safety...
So I can tell you, as far as enforcement and having more feet on the street, that's why we fought so hard with this new police contract. In order to be a more nimble police department, in order to be a police department that could respond to the concerns of the community, we had to...
Sir.
Oh, with the caramel, I appreciate a coffee caramel. Thank you very much. Do you want to share? No. So one of the things that we're doing with the police contract is to make sure that we can that the commissioner can have more flexibility of putting more officers on the street when we know crime is happening. So as far as being a multiplier, when we have those officers there and in force, we're able to ensure that they're spending less time just running from 911 call to 911 call, and they can be the kind of officers that they want to be and the type of officers that the community is insistent that they be, which is more engaged. And you can't have that level of engagement as, and respond all the time to the 911 calls as well.
If I may add, I think when I walked in the door, Baltimore has done a traditional great job at having force multipliers, which means we have great collaborations with our federal partners. We have great collaboration with MTA. We have a great collaboration with state police. We have a great collaboration with all the organizations around. What I've done in Anne Arundel County with Kevin Davis, who's the chief of police there, is he became chief, I think, probably about 6-7 months ago. The first week he came on, we talked about erasing the line between Brooklyn and the northern part of Anne Arundel. And so basically we go back and forth. His guys go across the line, my guys go across the line. So we've erased that line. We work together on a regular basis. We hold a regional meeting of all the operational chiefs. That means all the chiefs in the area that have patrol units. We bring them in, and we've started to have regular conversations, because what you're seeing is crime is bouncing back between the counties. They're going across lines. The bad guys now could care less on what county they're in or what city they're in. They're bouncing all around on a regular basis, so we're sharing information. We're having regular meetings. But another force multiplier, and I started my conversation with this, is that that's police force multipliers. That's using a lot of other resources, FBI, DEA, ATF. We have regular meetings, and so we work as partnerships. The other force multiplier that we're really going to have a great conversation about, I started with this, is this community. And the mayor says this all the time, and she means it with all her heart, is that we can't arrest our way out of this concept. We can't arrest enough kids, because you can take kids or people off the street, you can take them off for however long they're going to be in jail, and then they're going to come right back. And unless you're making a significant difference, you're not stopping this feeder pool. Those little things that I'm talking about with the Explorer Camp, that's trying to stop that feeder pool. But the reality and the bigger picture is we have to change the culture of Baltimore. We have to change the culture of Baltimore. And we're going to have to ask some very tough questions, and we're going to have to get some answers. And it's going to be, are we courageous enough to have that conversation? Now, you talk about a force multiplier, that's a force multiplier. When we as a community start policing ourselves, that's when we're going to make that cure-all and make that significant change. Now, people may say, you know, Commissioner, that's a lot of talk. And I may not have the answer how to do that, but I know that that is the solution. I know that we have to, as this community, has to stop thinking of itself as individual pieces, that Baltimore was succeed or fail as a whole. And so we have to come in and have those very serious conversations. Here's a dangerous one. We have to have those conversations about ethnicity. We have to have those conversations about race. We have to have those conversations that any of those things that tear us apart as a community, and be honest about it, authentic about it, and start making changes. That's a force multiplier where we need to go.
Before we get to the next question,
Yes,
Gus, I did want to give the senator, Senator Pugh, a chance to speak as well. And to the multiplier, even of the gentleman I think left, also our use of technology, whether it's the crime cameras or the other technology that we have, we're using as a force multiplier as well. It's been very useful.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the conversations that the mayor and I had some time ago was about police officers walking the beat. And I want to thank the commissioner personally, because I asked him if he would come walk a certain part of town with me. And when you talk about cultural change, and I think this is something that we need to do, what I did was, after we did that walk, I tweeted out the picture of you walking through Pigtown. So when we talk about culture change, this is something that we all can do. You know, when you see a police officer and they're doing the right thing, you know, take a picture with them and tweet it out to somebody. And I can't tell you how many more requests I have from neighborhoods for you to come walk with us. And I know you've made a commitment, do a couple more with me. But, you know, it's all about, as you said earlier, cultural change. And we've all got to get that embedded in us. And if we remember that we were talking about TMZ, the thing that happened in Randallstown, how that's gone viral nationwide. So if we start talking about positive things that are going on in our community and start tweeting those things out, let's make some of those things go viral. Thank you again. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Gus, can I ask you a question? Could you help me with this?
Yes, sir.
Hey, the question is that you see the mayor,
Yes, sir.
you see the ex-mayor,
Yes, sir.
you see the senator,
Yes.
you see the comptroller. Do they just grow beautiful women in Baltimore like that? Bright, brilliant,
certainly at Bedford.
leaders like that?
Yes, sir.
I needed some help from you guys. Could have gave me a clap on that or something.
So, thank you, Senator. So, I saw a couple hands, and before I come to you on my left, Larry, I have her. Senator mentioned tweeting, and I know, Madam Mayor, that you're tweeting from the meeting. I'm going to encourage others that are present to tweet the meeting tonight. I know that Dr. Reed at Pastor Frank Reed is tweeting the fact that we're here tonight. So I'm encouraging you to put the message out that we are continuing the mayor's promise to host a public safety forum where we're getting an opportunity to hear from you, the residents of the city. And those of you who were wondering what was dropped on the table, the kind gentleman from Bolton Hill did not want to cut through everyone in the pew, so he went around and left candy on the candy on the table. So next we have Jason Curtis, and then I'm coming over to you, ma'am, in the red shirt. Yes, sir. Come to Jason with the. Oh, you can speak here, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We talk about changing the culture of the community, but I'd like to find out from you, Commissioner, that 91% is very startling, and you brought that up. What is it that you are planning on doing to change the culture within the police department itself to really motivate the guys and gals to do a really good job and to really help work with the community so that we can help in turn motivate them so that it's really a cohesive, motivational experience for us all, really.
No, one of the biggest things, and at least my style, is number one, and I shared this just the other day. I was at the Preakness walking around working, and I ran into Colin Powell. And Colin Powell is one of those iconic figures and one of those people I've looked up to for a very long time. So it was a pleasure, it was an honor. I was humbled to run into him. And he took about 10 or 15 minutes to have a conversation with me. It really wasn't a conversation. He was talking, I was listening. And so he was sharing with me, and what I walked away with is he says, you know, Tony, what it's really all about, it's not about technology, it's not about the force multipliers, it's not about all these other glitz and glamour, it's about your employees. It's about, from him, it's the troops on the ground getting the job done, knowing that they matter to you. And that's how I've kind of led organizations all my life. And what I'm changing, part of that culture, and these employees are saying, when there's 91% of them saying that the morale is down, is they're saying that you don't care about me. You don't care about my family, you don't care about me, you don't care about what's happening as a whole. I think what we've started to do to change that is the mayor's leadership on getting them a new contract. By the end of the year, our technology, as far as dealing with reports, are coming out of the dark ages. I don't know if anybody here is in my age group, but does anybody know about Lotus Notes? Has anybody used Lotus Notes? Anybody heard of Lotus Notes? I don't see any yet. Yeah, okay. All right, 1980s, right? That's what we track our crime with. We track our crime with 1980s technology, and so we're behind the 8 ball. There again, the mayor has given me permission to go into some of our asset forfeiture funds, and by the end of the year, we will have a state-of-the-art field-based reporting system. All of our employees, all our police officers out there will have, and for the use of a better term, iPads, but they're tablets. And so all the data, all the information will be sent to them on a regular basis. And when I've come here, I've shared with them, and I've said, and these young officers know this already exists. They know it exists in other police departments, so when they come here and they don't have it, it serves as one of those morale issues. And I've said to them, I said, the speed that in which we work, we're like a Pinto, a Ford Pinto, and we should be like a Ferrari. And I'm sure they had no idea what I was saying by that, and they were looking at me like I was crazy. But I took my command staff and I sent them to Chicago. And they sat in that room in Chicago, and they came back to me, and I won't tell you the expletive that they said, but they understood what I was trying to get across. I took another part of my command staff, and I sent them to Philadelphia. And they sat in Philadelphia, and they saw how behind the times we are with our technology. And so it cuts into how we solve crimes. And I give you an example is that when in Philadelphia or Chicago, when you have a crime that takes place between gang members, within 2 to 3 minutes, every police officer in that entire organization has a picture of the victim, the suspect, who the suspect's linked to, how many times they've been stopped with different people, where their mothers live, where their fathers live, where their kids are, where their girlfriends are. Within 2 to 5 minutes, they have all that data, all that information in front of them coming to their computers. And what that means is that they respond back to it quickly so you don't have retaliatory shootings that take place. So we don't have 4, 5, 6 shootings that take place. For us to put that data together through Lotus Notes takes us about 2 to 3 hours. And so within 2 to 3 hours for us to try to get that data, and we've gotten much better at it, especially in the last couple nights, we've gotten much better at it. Within that time, you could have multiple shootings that take place. We're bringing that online and changing that by the end of the year. We're bringing online new vehicles for the organization by the end of the year. We're training them. We're giving them more training than they ever had before. And the training that we're getting is not just in the traditional tactical stuff, how you arrest someone, how do you do holds on someone, but we're doing training called legitimacy training. And that is how do you work in communities and wow that community, and when you walk out, you are a part of the community. We're having other state-of-the-art training, which I think this is really significant. You guys may not think this is a wow thing, but this is a wow thing for me when we walk out. There's state-of-the-art training going on in the University of California, UCLA, a guy named Dr. Goff. What Dr. Goff looked at is not just racial profiling. What he looked at is bias-based policing. And with this particular training that he does, he did it in Denver. And how he kind of laid it out is that he had 2 officers, and they happened to be Caucasian officers. And one of the Caucasian officers was very courageous, and he says, I don't like black people. I don't like black people, don't like being around black people. I have no respect for black people. I don't like black people. So he was one of the participants. Then he had another Caucasian gentleman who grew up in a black neighborhood, had a black wife, and he had multiracial kids. And so he grew up in communities around African Americans, and so he had a different perspective on life. So what they did is they took both of these guys and they gave a video, kind of like a shoot, don't shoot scenario. And what they showed was an African American male who happened to be large in size. So it had to be a large black man walking down the street with a pipe in his hand, banging against cars as he walked down. And that's all he was doing. He had a pipe in his hand, banging on cars as he walked down the street. And then he put these two officers in front of this camera and asked them to engage on this, to address this. Well, the guy who had the bias, who said he has the strong bias, said, "Sir, can I talk to you for a second? Can you put the pipe down? You're scaring people. Can you relax? Take a deep breath. I just want to talk to you. I'm not trying to disrespect you. I just want to have a little talk. Can you talk to me? Can you please put the pipe down, okay?" And so that's how he handled it. The guy he came from the family that was multiracial. He grew up in a multiracial neighborhood. When the same guy came down, he said, "Put your effing hands up. Get on your effing back. Do the effing this. Rah, 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 rah." And so what his research was totally different. Moving away from bias-based policing and looking, or racial profiling, looking at the biases that everyone has. Everyone in this room has strong biases. What you have to get by is how do you do policing without your biases coming into play and to address that. So what he does is he comes in and he does research and he does a survey on the entire organization. And the organization as an organism shows what our biases are. And then they custom make the training to turn the organization into a proper run organization as a whole. So we're doing that cutting edge research that's out there. And I could go through other training other than Gus was looking at me. But we're impacting character. We're impacting customs and culture on a lot of different levels. And you just can't do it one time. You have to do it over and over and over again. And I think what you're seeing is we've had in our excessive force complaints this year, we've had a 35% reduction in excessive force complaints. That's not something that I'm inventing. That's not something that I'm making up. That's a 35% reduction. Within citizen complaints overall, we've had a 40% reduction. We're making progress. We're going in the right direction. We have a long way to go, but we won't stop until we shift and change the organization that you will be proud of. Thank you.
Before you know, we're going to go over here to the young woman in the red, but also with respect to morale building, the pay was a big issue that we were able to tackle with the contract as well. Is the issue of promotions and the introduction of the community members in the promotions interviews. I think it's a big deal as far as going toward improving morale, as well as the investments that we're making in technology.
Yes, ma'am.
First, I want to say, don't no cotton come to Harlem lest the law know. It's an old movie, but it's the truth. And I live in this community in the senior building. And it's so much crime going on around, but the officers make sure that the old folks, because I'm now a senior citizen, that we're taken care of. They ride through. This is Arlington Avenue, Harlem Avenue, Edmondson Avenue in the 17th District. But my complaint also is we need to drug test by the hair follicles, because too many officers, laymen, bus drivers, and the works are still doing drugs. And the only way to completely test them is test them by the hair follicles. So if y'all can't do that, then let everybody just do what they're going to do. And these drug programs that help gentlemen and ladies get out of prison, especially Gardenza in Baltimore, is so crooked. It is the work. They need to be shut down, burnt down, and started over again. So unless somebody investigates why the recidivism going back to prison is the way it is, you're going to have to check these people out. And I teach children, not because I need to, because I want to, in my old age. And these children are so mean and horrible. I had to leave a school because a little 9-year-old said what he was going to do to me. You know what I said to him? I will stomp a mud hole in you, and the police they will come and get my fist out of your chest. And I meant that because I saw that lady in California knocked out. I'm not going down that way. I really am not going down that way. And the substitute teachers are catching hell right now. We really are catching hell. Somebody needs to help. You know, so those are the few things that I wanted to say about. And my sister, Miss Pat, met you before I did, from Philadelphia. So, I mean, she's trying. She took 17 years to be clean in Philadelphia. I didn't go that way. But I'm glad that Philadelphia had programs that could get people off drugs. Why do we have to leave Baltimore to go to Philly to get clean? Our centers need to be here, and they need to be run properly. But like I said, Gardenza needs to be under federal investigation in the Baltimore area.
I'm going to stomp a hole into your chest.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm writing that down right now. Yes, ma'am. Two things. On a serious note, for all Baltimore police employees from top to bottom have random drug tests. We're not told about it. We're not given advance. And I know the hair follicle part, but we're given random drug tests on a constant basis, especially me. You're not going to have any hair follicles going on here. Even if I wanted to give you some, they weren't coming out. But your question is very, very germane. Here's another one. Here's a serious one and a counter one for this. I said this before, is that you have these young kids out here. They don't come out 17 years old and violent. They don't come out 20 years old and violent. And what we're hearing here is 9 years old. Kids are ready to take on war and aggressive. How do we start teaching these kids conflict resolution? How do we start teaching these kids at a very young age on how to deal with aggression in a totally different way? Part of what the reason is right now when they're 9 years old is by the time they're 16 and they have a gun in their hands, they're dealing with aggression and conflict by killing another human being. And they're not seeing worth of life. They're not seeing worth of life of people who look just like them. And it's almost like a self-hatred that is out there. So how do we start at a very young age changing the culture and teaching kids how to deal with conflict in a totally different way? That is a very serious question for us. We laughed about that, but that's a very serious question that we need to address in our city.
Excuse me, Doc Key.
We're going in.
One second.
We're going in
One
orders now. Who's next, Gus?
Doc Key.
Who's next?
Thank you, sir. We're going to give every... Reverend Doc Key, make your point, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
2 days ago downtown, there's a ball game. The kids are down there Memorial Day. I'm a Vietnam veteran, man. I come down there to just salute the veterans. All of a sudden, kids fight because they go downtown because they go recreation play sport. Downtown is not black kid friendly. So the kid gets into a little stuff. You'd have thought I was in Vietnam, man. All those 50 police cars come off, right? All I'm saying, and Madam Mayor, is when are we going to stop the man? Don't blame the children. Blame me. Blame us. Because there's no recreation centers around. You're getting ready to sell all these bills out here on the city. You're going to sell right there, 1300 block of Division Street, where Justice Thurgood Marshall.
Reverend Doc Key, we've given you enough time.
Wake up!
Thank you, sir.
Wake up!
Thank you, sir. Now, before we go to the next question. Now, before we go to the next question. No, I'm going to give you a good point. No. Listen to me. Reverend Doc Key, we let you speak. We let you speak, sir. Now, let me just make this one point. We will not disrespect this house. Put your hands together if you heard what I said. We will not. I can't hear the applause. We will not disrespect this house, nor will we disrespect the neighbors who have come out tonight, nor will we disrespect this forum, the mayor, or the police commissioner. Before we go to the next question, thank you all for your patience. We respectfully would like to move on. Yes, sir, you had a question.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You can just give us your name and then you can give your question.
My name is Mark Matthews, and I have an organization called Clean Slate America. I help people with criminal record expungements. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioner, for holding another forum. So my question is not really to the panelists. My question is to everyone attending here. And it goes to what the young man was saying and a couple of questions about recreation centers. I'm a single parent. I have a son who's 18 years old. I live in Baltimore City, born and raised here. The program that I run helps people clean up their records so they can find jobs. But my passion and my desire is to prevent people from having to come see me to clean up their records. My son is 18, as I said. I came home one evening. His friend who lives next door, his uncle had dropped by, put a basketball hoop in my backyard without asking. The basketball hoop drew attention. It drew some neighborhood kids. So I had a decision to make. Am I going to protest and have that basketball hoop removed? Am I going to see what happens and take opportunity when it comes to me? So my question is to is to everyone in this room. We're talking about a culture change, but we are the culture. We establish what the culture is in our neighborhoods. Are you talking to the children in your neighborhood? Are you teaching the young girls hopscotch? Are you teaching the kids how to play hot butter beans, come and get your supper? Are you giving them the opportunity to be a child so they won't be grabbed by the streets? What are we doing? We can expect the police department to protect us, but it's not their job to train and nurture and direct our children. That's our job. So I challenge each and every one of you to start speaking to the young people in your neighborhood. They are starving for attention. They're starving for love. They want someone to speak to them. There are children now of all ages coming to my backyard, teenagers, little girls, little boys. They play, they run, they jump. They're generally orderly, and they listen respectfully when I give them instruction. And they will all do that if you will simply open your mouth, not be afraid, and engage our children. Pastor Reed, it's good to be back in the house. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Well said. I say this in every meeting. Again, when I said mentoring, the pastor who got me outside, who was very passionate, he had said the same thing to me outside, and he may not have been saying it in the right way, but he's also calling for help. He's also, what was said there in a very civil way, is that we can make a difference. And some people may not be willing to engage with a 17-year-old or 16-year-old or 15. I understand that. But I don't think there's anything that stops us from engaging with a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And people think this is very simplistic. But if our kids can't read by the time they're in the 3rd grade, they're most likely not going to graduate from high school. If our kids cannot read by the 3rd grade, literate by the 3rd grade, they may not, most likely, probability, they're not going to graduate from high school. Can we make a difference there? Can we start teaching 5-year-olds how to engage and deal with conflict in a totally different way? We do have the power. Government can't solve everything. My police officers are built for certain things, and people call on us for a lot, and everyone expects a lot. And just like it was said, sometimes we don't have the tools to address that, but this community, these loving mothers, these loving fathers, they're nurturers in this community, we can change our community, one kid at a time. We just need to stop talking, start making a difference. Well said.
Thank you, Commissioner. I saw a hand up close to the center aisle. Yes, ma'am. With the turquoise color? Yes, ma'am. I was going to ask Christian if he could go around the other. Oh, that's good. Okay. Well, for the sake of the television, yes, ma'am. Only because we're reading audio. Yes. Mm-hmm.
We have to turn your mic on.
I work with the community in my professional capacity, and I think that one of the things that would probably be very beneficial to us if we didn't work in like silos, if in fact more community and nonprofit organizations would engage the community, and the community could know about all the different services available to them, because there are different drug prevention services, and there are different services that will help our youth, but sometimes people don't know about those services. Also, you said something about the camp that you're going to have for the police department. If in fact you could let me know so that I can pass that word over to our community about the camps and stuff, that would be helpful, because in the summertime we have children from all over coming into our community wreaking havoc, and if they had something positive to do, it would make a tremendous difference. And thank you for coming.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to give this to Melissa Hyatt for a second. We talked about the Inner Harbor and kids coming down to the Inner Harbor. We're trying a unique and different way of how to solve that problem. Instead of having police officers come in there, cite kids or arrest kids, we're trying to do it in a totally different way. And I want her to talk about this a little bit as we try to change our culture and how we try to deal with our community. Melissa.
Good evening. In reference to some of the different tactics that we're utilizing at the Inner Harbor, we've spoken with a lot of youth. Specifically, I'm not sure if anyone's heard of the Inner Harbor Project. It's basically a group that consists primarily of young people across the city who are interested in returning the Inner Harbor to an area where they feel welcome, but where they can coexist with visitors and other community members, but coexist and not have conflict down there. So what we've begun to do is meet with them, have officers that work at the Inner Harbor actually sit and talk to these young ladies and gentlemen. And in fact, last week, the Commissioner Batts addressed them. We had them at the Central District for dinner and some conversation. And one of the things that we're learning is that a lot of them don't feel that the police can relate to them and don't feel that we understand what some of their concerns are. So we're meeting with them to try to figure out ways to accomplish what they want, which is to return to the harbor, but while, of course, balancing that with public safety. And this is a different approach for us, but we think it's going to be effective. And a lot of the youth that are involved in that program, one of their primary goals is conflict resolution down there. So that's something that we're working on, and we feel that over the next few months, you'll begin to see some benefits from it, and you'll start to see it pay off down there.
We actually have a large group of kids. If you drive down Pratt and Light there, in that open forum area that's down there, you drive down there any Friday or Saturday, you see those kids down there. They're not causing problems. They're sitting down there. They're doing dances. I'm going to go over there one day and try to dance like them, and I'm going to fool them. But they're coexisting down there. They're not causing problems, and that's what we want. And you don't see police officers down there arresting them. We're not citing them. But we got to get that message out, and we have to learn different ways of how to coexist and address our young people within our community.
And Ms. Allen, if you could, I want to make sure that our Mayor's Office of Neighborhoods person for your area connects you to the other camps that Rec and Parks is hosting as well, so we can make sure that you're able to know about all of those things.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And for the sake of time, I know that Delegate Stukes, you had your hand up, sir. And after Delegate Stukes, I would like to go back to actually a young lady who had her hand up. Yes, I'm going to come back to you.
I'm just going to make a statement, and please excuse me for sitting down, to the mayor and to the commissioner. When you mentioned mentoring, I had to say something. And this is a compliment and some solution. I don't have the answer to everything. But mentoring is tremendously important. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock at Franklin Square Elementary Middle School, I'm completing my 5th year of doing mentoring with 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade boys. And I bring in a different vocation almost every single week, from dental students at the University of Maryland, the state's attorney's office, every police from MTA, Baltimore, chefs, March Funeral Home. You'd be surprised what these kids have on their mind that they want to talk about. The gentleman is absolutely correct. And the thing about culture and language, some of you may remember 15, 14 years ago, when I realized that we started calling our women bees and ourselves the N-word. I knew then we were heading for, excuse me, past a devil's workshop amount of trouble. And because there's a saying that says, language carries culture, and culture carries. And that's what we're seeing right now. Look at the music. Listen to the music, and you can see where some of the stuff is coming from. The mentoring, you want to see good boys, your police department will be at Franklin Square Elementary Middle School tomorrow, and you will see an interaction between the youth there, both boys and girls, when Foxtrot lands on the grounds of Franklin Square for the 2nd year. We are not using some of the resources that we could be using that don't cost us a dime. I haven't had to spend one single dime in 5 years, and have brought different people, from veterinarians, chefs, to talk to these boys and explain to them a lot of things about life. Last week it was Verizon, 2 top executives from Verizon. They brought some gadgets, but the main thing, they talked to them. Kwame from Center Stage, you should have seen how he captivated these boys. I brought in an etiquette teacher after being embarrassed of seeing children that don't know how to hold a knife, a fork. I brought in a professional dancer. Do you know how to hold a woman when you're dancing? And began to teach them things. And you should see the difference. That doesn't cost a dime. Just takes a little bit of time. Because the old saying is, I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. So I wanted to just share that with you, because I would like to see that if it could be done in every single school, once a week, just coming out and sharing what it is that you've got and make a difference in these children's lives. They want to do good things, but if good things are not shown to them, they're going to do what the television and the movies teach them to do. It's up to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Madam Mayor, Commissioner, if it's okay, I want to take all the questions from the floor now for the sake of time. And I want to come to the gentleman here with the white shirt, then to you, ma'am, on the same end behind you, then on the end here with the floral. Yes, ma'am. Raise your hand. Yeah, you. And then I'll go back to the gentleman with his son.
Good evening. I'm
Yes, well, I'm from one side. I'm coming back to the lady on this end. After you, sir. Go ahead, pose your question. And we'll come
My name's Ray Kelly. I'm from the No Boundaries Coalition. And first, I'd like to commend the department on their efforts on the Pennsylvania Main Street area, as well as Druid Heights, and the residents appreciate that. But my question is, with all this increased visibility with the police and the increased patrols, does the department have any kind of comprehensive strategy on how they're going to address the issue of post officer resident relations in our neighborhoods?
Thank you, sir.
I think that's a very good point. One of the things that I experimented with last year, and I think you heard it in the room here, is walking beats. I can guarantee you 100%, where I go to community meetings, 100%, they all say, we want walking beats. And they all say that I want to go back to the time of officer friendly. I don't know what officer friendly was, but I get the concept of what they're trying to get across. And so what I did last year is when we had our recruit classes graduate, I had them on walking beats. And I had them in the Western, and I had them in the Eastern. And at each time I had, I believe it was pretty close to about 30 officers in the Western, 30 officers in the Eastern. And all these young recruits coming out of the academy, because I wanted to start getting them acculturated to dealing with the community. Get out of those cars, get out of those seats, start talking to people, start listening to people, start establishing relationships as a whole. And so when we put them in the cars, they gravitate. I want them to get used to getting out. We had them out there for a full year until we had this winter, and this winter was a pretty brutal winter, so I took them off the walking beats. So we're going to put them back into walking beats. What's inculcated in that is a community policing program which teaches them how to be better post officers. Number one, how do you have integrity for your post? Number two, all the businesses on your post. Number three, all the informal leaders, the grandmothers, and to know the cultural differences that take place on your walking beats, and to understand the city as a whole. What we're doing differently within the police academy now, they have to read a book that tells about how Baltimore became Baltimore, to understand the housing issues, how the immigrant populations came here, so they understand how the city became the rich tapestry that it is today. So from that foundation, we're having them go out to do more walking beats. We're having them getting engaged. We have them learning how to be the proper post officers. Now, that's not going to change overnight, but we're going in the right direction, and we're making the right moves.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Jill Kingery. I'm a resident of the Central District and also co-coordinator of the Safety Committee for the Mount Royal Improvement Association. So I've been working with your Neighborhood Services Unit for the last year or so, and you're right, they are fantastic. But I'm thrilled to hear that you've worked so hard to address the salaries issue and make progress on that. What I wanted to ask about was staffing. And I don't really know anyone, I don't think, that thinks that the police officers are probably appropriately staffed. And you mentioned earlier about moving them from one unit to the other. So I wanted to know more about that, but specifically when you mentioned earlier that you move them from not just the Neighborhood Services Unit, but from other units, many officers to patrol. When I think, were you talking about, I think, the homicide rate at that point? Jumping from 17, somewhere between 17 and 25 a month?
I was sharing what the range tends to be for the last 10 years.
Sure.
Yep.
So you said at 10, you start moving them out.
Yes.
So it seems to me at least two things are happening there which are concerning. One is that at that end, when you've reached 17, you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. And at the outset, I mean, you're kind of letting those first 10 go by without anywhere in appropriate levels of staffing. So that's the question. What are both of you doing, basically, to address staffing?
Very good insight. Let me answer it this way. One of the things which is really different for me coming in as the police chief of the third city or commissioner in the city of Baltimore is that usually I have control over my deployment numbers. Usually I have the ability to move my resources around and staff them properly. Here in the city of Baltimore, it's through the FOP contract. The FOP contract dictates when officers can work and what shifts that they can work on. So I don't have the ability to move people around. Currently, our staffing is inefficiently run. We have the same amount of officers at 4 a.m. in the morning as we do at 4 o'clock at night or in the afternoon. Crime goes like this. Crime tends to, about 2 or 3 o'clock when kids get out of school, crime starts to go up dramatically. It levels off probably about 9 or 10 o'clock, and then it spikes again at 12 o'clock at night, stays up to about 2, and then dramatically drops off to about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then it starts that progression all over again. And so it does it at different ebbs and flows on different days, but basically that's the same thing. School time goes up, nighttime it goes up, late at night it goes up, and then it comes back down early morning times. Our staffing is just like this all the time, inefficient. Out of this contract, what we did work out is that we have brought in computer software that based on calls for service, where the workload is, that's where we're putting our police officers. We've gone to a 4-10 schedule, and what that means is that the officers work 4 10-hour days, 10 hours and 35 minutes to be exact, and then they're off for 3 days. Why that's good? It's good for the officers because they have 3 days off. They have the ability to mentally kind of get back into the job, get back into their families, and it gives them balance. That's really important. Their number one issue that they complained about, I never have any time off because I'm always using them on overtime. This gives them 3 days off. The 410 and putting them where we need them is that we have a work schedule that's going to start at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Those guys are, and don't quote me on the hours, but roughly they're going to start at 1 o'clock and go to 11 o'clock at night. We had another shift that's going to start at 4 and go to like 1 o'clock. We have another shift that comes in at 10 o'clock, and we have another shift that comes in 7 o'clock. What that means, which is so good for us, is a lot of our overtime is expended by extended shift overtime, keeping those officers over late. We'll have almost triple the amount of police officers from roughly about 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 2 in the morning. So we're going to reduce overtime dramatically. We're going to staff efficiently, and this will allow me to stop taking those officers out of their positions because during the times that I have crime the most, I'll have my heaviest numbers out there on the streets of Baltimore. So basically by staffing based on science, based on empirical data, based on the ebbs and flows of crime, we're going to solve that problem already. So we should be steady and doing it in the right direction.
I just want to make it clear when the commissioner was talking about the acknowledgement of 10 being a marker for when he ramps up the troops. It wasn't that the first 10 are free. I think we've been talking about this the whole time, that we take every loss of life very seriously, and the work that we're doing is to increase our information and to increase the enforcement, focusing on repeat violent offenders so we don't have any. But it was an acknowledgement, strategically, well, not strategic acknowledgement, but an acknowledgement of the police strategy around trying to suppress instead of pretending like, that when we have spikes, nobody notices or nobody does anything about it. When we have spikes, we respond. And that is what that was about, not that the first 10 are free.
And that's very clear. I got to echo that with the mayor. When we put this in effect, our new strategy about mid-January, you remember in the beginning of January, we had a very violent 3As from the 1st to the 3rd, and then again from about the 10th to the 13th. And when we put this new strategy in about the 15th of January, in the month of February, when we had one full month, I think we had 6 homicides. On the next month, we had 7 homicides. And so if you have a norm of 17 to 25 and we're doing 6 and 7, we're going in the right direction. What I did is I lowered the bar. Or you can look at it raising the bar, the expectations. I expect this organization to move faster, quicker, and have a sense of urgency long before we get to the norm or the status. Now, we've had a interesting month this month. I had a long conversation with my staff today saying how do we recalibrate, how do we address, how do we get on top of it. I think we're going in the right direction. I'm raising the expectations on a lot of different levels. I'm pushing this organization extremely hard, and I think in the long run, you're going to be very pleased with what you see on the other end.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. And we have just a few minutes left because I promised Pastor Reed that we would be leaving at a certain time. So we're a little past that time, but I would ask that those that are asking the question, I know Ms. Green, you actually have your hand up as well. Pose your question. I'm giving the mayor and commissioner an opportunity to give a concise answer, and we'll go to the next person. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Diane Corbett, and I live in southeast Baltimore, and I just want to thank the commissioner. Your district now is awesome. Working with Douglas Holmes, and I thank you for that. I gave you a chance when you came in and everything. I gave you a hard time when you was at our last meeting, but I just want to thank you for that. And I see that what Doc DePotter was saying, it is us. It's up to us as adults. I'm in my 50s. I remember having a summer job and an after-school job at the same time, but my parents made sure of that because they went out to meetings, made sure that we had jobs through the business department, business people here in Baltimore City. And also what Delegate said, we need to mentor our children. I work in Baltimore County Public Schools, And I do one-on-one, but I also not do one-on-one with all my children. They give me other children. And it makes a difference when you become a mentor to those children. And that's all I want to say. And it's up to the adults here. Each and every one of us here in this church, if we say we are Christians, it's up to us because God's going to say, what did you do for my children? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Carter, and I have two questions. One question I would like to answer, a question for the mayor, is how much money she's dedicating to the youth of Baltimore City for summer jobs to prevent crime? And second, are they implementing any programs for the youth who are not interested in sports in Baltimore City?
Definitely. So I can give you, I can tell you I don't have the exact number, but with respect to YouthWorks, I'm not sure if you realize, but there was a lot of money that was given from the federal government at some point for youth jobs that has been pulled back. I made sure that we kept that commitment. Even during the recession, I made sure that we kept that commitment to hiring young people. I even went beyond that and established a Hire One Youth initiative, which asked our business leaders to really step up and hire one youth. So we would have more opportunities for our young people than to say that they could, cut grass or pick up trash in parks, that they would have an opportunity to develop themselves and their skills in non-public work environments. And I'm really pleased every year since we started the Hire One Youth initiative, we've been able to increase the number of participants, both young people that have been able to find jobs as well as employers that are willing to partner with us in the Hire One Youth initiative. And with respect to programs for young people that aren't interested in sports, of course, we work through the Family League, investing in after-school and out-of-school time programs throughout the year for kids that are in, whether you like sports or chess or anything. So yes, the answer is yes. Have you looked online for? Where did you look? Okay. What types of programs are you looking for? So it should be on there, but I can make sure that you get the programs that are offered through. We fund through the Family League to make sure that we can hold the service providers accountable for their results. So they have to apply every year for the funding. So I can make sure Lindsay's the closest to you, so he can get your contact and we can make sure that you have access to that information.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Green?
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for attending, and Commissioner Batts. Please share with the police officers, all 100% of them, that we do care about them, and they are needed. And thank you for a job well done. My question is pertaining to the curfew. My question pertains to the curfew, the summer curfew that's supposed to go into effect for the kids. In Central District, where will these kids be taken? And how are parents and guardians going to be held accountable for the kids who are out in the streets after hours?
So one of the things that I'm proud of with our curfew center, in which I talked about in my State of the City address, that we were working to keep to make the connection centers open year round, is because once we get the kids, once we pull them off of the street and force a guardian to come and be accountable, our rate of return for those kids is very, very low. We're using that opportunity when they come into the connection center to give that family the support that they need, the support that child is screaming and crying out for when we find a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old out on the street at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's a child in trouble. And so the curfew center is not a punishment, it's to connect those young people with the services, the families with the services that they need, and make sure the adults understand, we ask ourselves, what can we do as a community? That's what we can do to say it's not okay. And when you have to come in and face up to, the fact that your child is out on the street, we are saying we see you. We see that this is not, that you don't have this situation under control, and we expect you to. If you need help, this is the help that's available for you, but this is not okay. And for me, that's what the connection centers are about, making sure that everybody is aware that this is not okay for our kids to be out without supervision in harm's way or causing harm to others.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was a gentleman who had his hand up. It was sitting on the end, and I know the gentleman with his son. You too, Dana, and the gentleman with his son, if you could just ask your question. Shorty, with all due respect, the gentleman in the orange, we know him as Shorty. He's attended all but one forum because of the sake of time, and there are folks who have not asked questions, who have never attended a forum. I'm yielding to the two gentlemen to be our last, and I thank you for your time. Yes, sir. Please give us your name, pose your question.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioner Batts. My name is Dana Crockett. I'm actually an officer with MTA Police, patrol the Central District. Prior to that, I was with Baltimore City School Police. And my question is, in both agencies, when I would take a report, commonly, all of my victims would always say, well, these kids are doing nothing but getting a smack on the wrist. So my question for you, whoever can answer it, is what partnerships are we building with the state's attorney's office to ensure that these kids no longer get get a smack on the wrist?
Thank you, sir. And gentlemen, your son, you'll be next after the commission. Yes, sir.
That's a very complicated question, and I can share with you my frustration, my officer's frustration. As I'm on them, we go through what is called a ComStat meeting, where I hold them accountable. Every 24 hours, we call in, my command staff calls in, and we go over the crime that for the entire city that happened in their district the night before. And when we capture someone, they're sharing their frustration because I'm chewing on them. Why didn't you get on that? Why did you let that happen? Why didn't you figure it out? Why didn't you have the strategy to get on? So I'm on them all the time. And they say, well, you know, Commissioner, we've arrested this guy 10 times. We've arrested him 12 times. And especially car thieves. And you can see what the young kids start a pattern. And they started getting invested in doing different things, and they graduate to higher levels. We work very closely with the state's attorney's office. We have a very good partnership, and historically have had a solid partnership. But we have a meeting called the CJCC, and that's a meeting with all the different pieces within the criminal justice system. We have judges there. We have myself, DEA, FBI, state's attorney, U.S. attorney. We're all at the table. And that's where I think we're going to have to take this conversation and kind of open it up, because it's all those pieces. It's just not one piece, it's all those pieces. We don't do everything right on the police department side, and there's things that we can improve on, but there's other things that happen in other pieces of the criminal justice system. But we're gonna have to, my thought process, just my personal opinion, we're gonna have to make some changes and address some things, and I'll take your comments back to the CJCC meeting and let people, because this is like the third meeting I've been to that same comment has been made. And so I have to take it back, give it to them, and it helps me to say, that didn't come from me. This is coming from my community, coming from my public, to look at different ways to start addressing the issue.
And as you go to the young men, we are planning a meeting. One of the meetings we had in Southeast, public safety meeting, talked about, where'd the young man go? There you go. Talked about the issue of the recidivism of juveniles. And we have a meeting planned with the state juvenile services and all of the service providers at City Hall. So we are pulling those pieces together to try to address that.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm Gemariah Griffin's father, and just wanted to say I knew we had a different kind of mayor when this one thing happened. There was a huge snowstorm, and the mayor actually opened up the park, so where there was tight parking spaces, you couldn't really park, she opened up the parks so that you could move your car in there. And if you couldn't move your car in there, if you somehow were in a snow emergency zone or something like that, you got towed, but you didn't get charged. You could go and pick up your car. So that kind of connection with the community is something that you do. So I can understand the connection center, and I can understand what you're trying to do in bringing people in the community together. But that's just the first part, just to say, great job. That was a long time ago, but I never got a chance to thank you personally. So, thank you. And my car did get towed, but I didn't get charged. It's okay. As far as the police officers in the community, I'm from Park Heights. I've lived in Patterson Park, Bolton Hill, and the like.
you guys give great support. So you definitely are appreciated. I know the young lady said it before, but we definitely appreciate your support and connection and continued effort in the community. Don't stop. Keep making it happen. As far as the MMA program that you were talking about, very, very important. I think, you know, we just happen to come from Taekwondo, so I know it's important. When I was young, I was at Sir Robert Eden School, and I took martial arts in the basement of the school as part of a program. What's your philosophy, sir?
My about philosophy is be loyal to your country, be obedient to your parents, be faithful to friends, be respectful to your elders, never attack without the proper reason, always finish what you've started.
And so if kids learn that, then you make a connection. So we appreciate your effort. So just keep going, keep going. I had one more thing. If you're going to have the camps during the summer, one thing that we have clearly a lot of entrepreneurs in the community and a lot of young entrepreneurs. Consider something that might engage those kids from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Got it. I'm with you. And I have to applaud you. You know, yes, give him a round of applause. Because just watching your son lean on your shoulder, that's that father-son love. That's what we're missing in our community. So I applaud you. Job well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And all of your hard work, and I'm glad that you got your car back, no problem. I'm like, check. I know we're closing up, but I want to thank everyone. If you work with me at the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood, please raise your hand. Raise your hands. All right. So if you did not get your question answered, because we are going to be very respectful of our host this evening, I want you to keep holding your hands up, Mayor's Office of Neighborhoods. See one of these people. They will take your question and get you a response. I can't thank you all enough. I know Gus is about to close us out, but I did want to say
you're
that the
closing
finals.
this out, Madam Mayor.
I'm closing this out?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you again to the First Lady of Bethel and Pastor Reed for hosting us.
Yes.
I want to say anyone that's interested in the finals for the Night Hoops basketball is 8 p.m. This Saturday at Maritime Academy and 9 p.m. at Maritime Academy as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am. 15 to 17 at 8 p.m., 18 to 21 at 9 p.m. at Maritime. That's
18 to 21-year-old. That's the party game. 9 p.m. and it's the finals for Night Hoops basketball. Again, thank you. And if you didn't get your question out, we apologize. We do want to be respectful and just make sure to connect with our Mayor's Office of Neighborhoods, and we have these forms as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you can connect. You can write it out, and we can get back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.